Australia's oceans are part of our national identity. It's one of the biggest ocean territories on the planet. For Australians, this is our big blue backyard. With the importance of Australia's oceans comes incredible responsibility to protect them. There are more pressures today than there have been at any time in our ocean's history. This is the decade we need to be acting to protect the jewels in our oceanic crown.
More than 85% of Australia's population lives by the coast, and the ocean is deeply woven into our cultural identity.
Australia's oceans are some of the most remarkable on the planet. We have more marine species than any other nation. It is something truly to be proud of.
But climate change, pollution, offshore oil and gas, and overfishing are endangering marine ecosystems and putting our way of life at risk.
Having been in the business for nearly 50 years now, I have seen firsthand the degradation of the oceans, mostly because of us humans.
Australia boasts the third largest marine territory on Earth, encompassing tropical coral reefs to temperate kelp forests and subantarctic waters. This vast ocean not only creates breathtaking landscapes, but also supports our economy, our cultural heritage, and our very existence.
When the Globe said we want to protect 30% of our oceans by 2030 in a network of marine parks, they look up to Australia as a global leader.
Marine parks are a powerful tool to protect precious ocean habitats and species and are economic powerhouses, attracting tourists and recreational fishers, generating revenue for regional communities. Marine parks are a national treasure and play a significant role globally. They're a testament to Australia's commitment to protecting the natural environment and ensuring its use for generations to come.
I feel personally passionate that we need to do everything we can to help prevent the extinction crisis that our oceans and Australia in general is facing.
Marine parks are areas of the ocean which are managed with conservation as a key priority. A marine park is divided into different zones, allowing for a mix of activities such as diving, boating, scientific research, recreational fishing, and commercial fishing. But the most important part of a marine park is its sanctuary. Highly protected areas where marine life can flourish, free from damaging activities.
A marine sanctuary is fully protected, and that really is the beating heart of a marine park. Conservation is the priority there.
Sanctuaries provide a haven for marine life and for the places they live, so it enables them to recover from any impacts or threats they're facing.
Cabbage Tree Bay Aquatic Reserve in Sydney is a good example.
I first dived at Cabbage Tree Bay in 1978 when I first started diving. It was not an aquatic reserve at that point. It was a very well-known spot, a very famous spot to go and see fish. There wasn't a lot to see, but it certainly was a safe, sheltered dive spot. Then probably about 20 years later, they brought in the aquatic reserve system in New South Wales. And the change has been remarkable. In the fish, in the biodiversity, but also in the people on shore. And there's some really keen, avid divers, amateur snorkelers. It's quite an economic boon for the area.
Fish can swim freely from sanctuaries into surrounding waters, replenishing and supporting sustainable fisheries. And most importantly, sanctuaries provide crucial protection for endangered marine life.
On the east coast, the grey nose shark has been found to be critically endangered. Its numbers are really low. And as a result of getting protection on their critical habitats, which is where they feed and they breed, we've been able to stop the loss of those animals. And if you go snorkeling or diving off the east coast, off Sydney or Brisbane, you can actually see quite a few of these grey-nosed sharks. And you can tell from just diving or swimming around these animals that the protections really have made a difference.
Studies show that preserving and managing ecosystems in marine sanctuaries is one of the most effective ways to foster a healthier and more resilient ocean, one which is better able to withstand pollution, disease and climate change.
The effect on climate change on the oceans is profound and increasing and quite worrying. So marine parks have a role here. It's been shown that in places where the community of fish and other organisms is looked after, like in a sanctuary zone, they're much more resilient and resistant to climate change in areas around.
The more areas we have protected, the better chance we have of increasing our biodiversity, of having our populations survive, and increasing the resilience, importantly, of all of those areas.
One sanctuary on its own is not enough. Marine life needs a strong network of safe havens like stepping stones across the sea.
A coral trout probably only has a square kilometre or a couple of hectares of home range, big fish, but the babies can be found over thousands of kilometres. So they're the ones that move. So not only do we need a couple of marine parks or safe refuges, we need them scattered down the coast in a way that lets the babies move through the ocean and then find a place to live and grow up that's safe.
Australia's First Nations communities play a vital role in managing sea country and protecting marine life.
The First Nations people have been stewards of our oceans for millennia. Once we have a marine protected area, it needs to be well managed. And First Nations people really, well, they have that longevity of connection with their country, with their oceans, are seemingly the best placed people to manage those areas.
Marine parks are economic engines that drive tourism and generate jobs in coastal communities. Visitors flock to these waters to fish, swim, snorkel, dive and marvel at the wonders of Australia's oceans.
We have these incredible jewels in our oceanic crown. We have subantarctic islands, the Great Barrier Reef, Ningaloo.
Ningaloo Coast is a World Heritage Site in Western Australia.
No one is left unchanged by an encounter with a whale shark, and Ningaloo is probably the place on the planet where it's best to see them. It is right there on the coast. Incredible diversity of fish species and coral. Along with whale sharks, that supports a huge tourism industry worth well over $10 million a year to the local economy.
And we cannot forget Australia's national treasure and global icon, the Great Barrier Reef, the world's largest coral reef system.
The Great Barrier Reef supports 64,000 jobs in tourism and $6.4 billion of income every single year. It's clear that our oceans within the marine parks really are draw cards for tourism, and it's an incredibly valuable industry.
I worked on a little boat up in the Great Barrier Reef, and we went to marine sanctuaries. When we took boatloads of tourists that had come to Australia who wanted to see the reef, we didn't take them to random areas. We took them to sanctuaries because we knew that this is where the life was the prettiest and the most beautiful and vibrant.
Local economies, local businesses, and thriving wildlife in the oceans all go hand in hand.
Marine parks offer fisheries a pathway to sustainability and increase the likelihood of bigger fish and bigger catches.
We've got some great science in Australia and worldwide to show that the fish that are able to live peacefully in these marine areas get larger, produce more eggs. They spill over to the outside and can actually enhance fisheries.
Fish will move outside the sanctuary and then they populate these other areas outside, and it helps those populations recover as well. So when we're fishing them, they are more resilient to that fishing pressure.
Surveys consistently show Australians, including recreational fishers, overwhelmingly support marine parks. They recognise their important role in protecting our marine heritage and securing the future of coastal communities.
The reality is that many of these fishing grounds are less productive than they used to be. I think there's much more of an understanding that we need to work together to protect our oceans. And the science shows us that in time, those numbers of fish do come back from those highly protected areas.
The oceans are sending us a stark message about climate change.
Australia's oceans are facing more threats today than at any time in their history. Climate change and warming waters lead to underwater heat waves, causing coral bleaching and the loss of kelp forests.
Long-spined urchins, driven south by a warming East Australian current, have invaded and overgrazed kelp forests in recent years. Fishing has depleted southern rock lobsters, their natural predators.
Kelp forests, which are diminishing through climate change, are homes and places where fisheries occur for the rock lobsters and abalone, which are very high-value fisheries crops. It's thought that the removal of the larger rock lobsters mean that the invading sea urchins have few or no predators. The smaller rock lobsters aren't able to combat them, and so the sea urchins have then removed the kelp, which has further diminished the rock lobsters and abalone. So ironically, by you might say overfishing the large rock lobsters, the fishers have caused a cascade of sea urchin damage, which has then destroyed their fishery. And the only place where there's much refuge are in marine protected areas.
Vital ecosystems like seagrass meadows and coral reefs continue to deteriorate.
Coral bleaching can take place whenever there's a stress on the corals that will interfere with the way photosynthesis takes place. Corals have tiny plants, algae, that live inside their cells. And inside their cells, they photosynthesize. It's important to note that not all corals that bleach will die. It depends how long the stress lasts. If it's very hot for a long time, we may get a lot of mortality. So when the corals die, then we have to wait in the hope that we will get new recruitment in for those new corals to settle and corals to grow again.
Marine parks offer hope for the future of Australia's oceans.
We do know the solutions, we know how best to protect them, we just need to take that action urgently.
If we consider the Great Barrier Reef, we need to reduce emissions dramatically as a first priority. But we need to be able to survive that period until emissions come down, and so we need to increase the resilience of the reef. Crucially, we need to protect areas in that time so that the recovery from disturbances can take place, so that our populations can be in the best position they can be to survive the onslaughts of climate change.
Safeguarding our big blue backyard is essential to retaining the vibrant tapestry of life that lies beneath the waves.
It's not just our responsibility for Aussies, it's our responsibility for the world. Everything we have here is unique and beautiful. And it's our responsibility, it's our duty to make sure that that's preserved, not only for young Aussies, but also for anyone around the world who wants to be able to see these things.
Join us in this crucial endeavour to preserve and expand Australia's marine parks so they, in turn, can continue to protect us and our planet.